whatever's Kitty's doing there.
Mic on? The mic, oh, now we're on. All right, finally, thank you for your patience. My name is Yukio Okano. Good morning, thank you for staying after the service. I am the president of your board of trustees, and thank you for coming to our annual meeting today. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting, meaning that we have all of you here in the sanctuary and we have an audience on Zoom at home. So before we start the program, I'm going to ask Reverend Dana to light the chalice and to provide some opening words.
We light this chalice this morning unto afternoon with our hearts turned to the work of the congregation. We have inherited this institution from 3 to 4 to 5 generations of people, depending how you measure generations. Generations of people who believed in the power of human beings to bear love into the world. We carry this tradition for those who find comfort, inspiration, and joy within its real and virtual spaces. Welcome. So glad you're here on Zoom. We tend the spark of imagination and hope for the world to come. Let us be about the business of this congregation.
Thank you, Reverend Dana. In order to conduct a vote on business items, we need to have a quorum. I'm going to ask Cassie Tondro, our board secretary, in a moment to confirm that we have a quorum. According to our bylaws, a quorum is 33% of the church membership. For 2022, the church membership has been certified to the UUA at 213 members. So 33% of that number is 70 members. So Cassie, will you come up and report on the quorum?
Oh, I don't think there's 70 members here.
Hi, everybody. Okay, we have, by my count, 39 people in the sanctuary. We have 30 people on Zoom. 34 absentee ballots for a total of 103 people. So we're way over quorum.
All right, thank you, Cassie. Annual meetings are important because they are opportunities to look back over the church year and to reflect on how we've done. Reverend Dana will provide a minister's report a little later, and I will provide a president's report. Annual meetings are also to conduct church business, and we're going to be voting on 3 items today. One is the approval of the minutes from last year's annual meeting. Number 2 is approval of a budget for 2022-2023. And third, approval of the slate of nominees for the new church year that starts in July. So each year the congregation votes on nominees for the Board of Trustees, Leadership Development Committee, and the Endowment Committee. As it happens this year, all of our nominees, there are 4 nominees that we're going to be voting on. They are all for the Board of Trustees. Now, voting this year is going to be a little bit more complicated than in previous years, as we have a hybrid meeting. So in addition to counting the votes of all of you in the sanctuary, we will be counting votes via Zoom polling and also our absentee ballots. So for those of you at home watching virtually, we're going to be using the Zoom online voting system. For each vote to be taken, a box will appear on your screen that will allow you to vote yes or no. 1 or 2 voters may vote per screen. If you are the only person voting on your screen, you will vote as voter number 1 and click NA for the second voter. You will then submit your vote. If there are 2 of you who are voting, you will each have a separate vote to make, and then you can submit your votes. For those of you at home,
Sure.
we have a practice item so that you see how the voting works. And after the practice item, we'll have our first business item. So in our control room, if you can bring up the practice item for the folks at home, and those of you in the sanctuary, if you can be patient.
Your audio is on. I can't hear yours well enough. Unless you're in the same room.
So I can see that the voting box came up on your screens at home. So
Want to do number
go ahead
2?
and make an entry. Is there a submit button? And go ahead and submit your entry.
Hi, Yukio, it's Jennifer. Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I think
Jennifer.
I heard Jennifer Carver. Is that you, Jennifer?
Yep. Yeah, I just was wondering, it sounded like the mic, it made a very loud noise when I heard it on the Zoom platform. I was just making an observation about your mic. It's whenever the mic, I hear what sounds like a microphone. Is that what that is? Hello?
Jennifer, if you can hear me, we're just talking about.
I hear what sounds like a microphone. Is that what that is?
I still need, I'm sorry, I apologize. We need to.
Hello?
Jennifer, can you hear me? We're just talking
I
about.
hear what sounds
Yeah,
like a
this is
microphone.
just
Is that what that
practice
is?
item. But
Nevertheless,
go ahead.
nevertheless,
Yeah, so do you need a minute to?
I do.
If everyone can please mute themselves. I don't know if Jennifer can mute herself, but if
Jennifer, if you can
everyone
hear
else can
me,
mute
when
themselves,
we
that
take
would
a
be great.
vote, we're just practicing right now. We can take your voice vote because you're not going to be able to vote on the screen. So just hold on.
So, can you instruct Kitty to put,
full of beauty, magic, miracles, and patterns that induce wonder. I'm always saying, wow, everything is so amazing. Or, that's not wow.
All right, well, we're going to actually go ahead with the first business item, and then hopefully we'll be able to correct this issue on the screen. The first item we're going to vote on is approval of the minutes from last year's annual meeting, which was held in on June 13th, 2021. Those minutes were sent to everyone as part of the annual meeting packet, and of course, it may seem odd that we're trying to approve the minutes a year after the fact, but if you want to make a comment, if you're here in the sanctuary, please raise your hand, and we have a microphone available if you have a comment about the minutes. If you're at home, you can write a question in the chat box or raise your hand. So we're only focusing on the minutes at the moment.
So Reverend said we don't need the polls up against the screen.
Well, as long as people at home can see their box. Is there a box up yet? All right. In the control room, if you can put up the question about minutes, that'd be great for the people at home. And so those of you in the sanctuary, if there are no questions or comments, actually, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. We need a motion to approve the minutes. I think I saw Brian's hand go up. And a second, Cappy? All right, so if there's no further discussion on the minutes, let's go ahead and vote on the minutes. So if you're in the sanctuary, raise your hand if you approve the minutes. And Cassie, do you want to take a quick count? And yeah, just keep your hand up until you have the count. Okay. Those of you who are at home, go ahead and vote on whether you approve the minutes or not, and push your submit button, and we can get a count. And if we can get a summary of the virtual vote. Are there any no's among the people here in the sanctuary on the minutes, or abstentions? Okay, we're calling for a vote on the minutes, and we have 24 people. I'm sorry, that was. All right, I'm sorry for the confusion. Those of you in the sanctuary, the 39 of you who voted in favor to approve the minutes, anyone want to vote no? Or anyone want to abstain? Okay, so I think we have the count. Okay, so the minutes are passed with a vote of 97 in favor. All right. All right, now Reverend Dana, this is your time for a minister's report.
Okay, so I just want to note that the pandemic is not yet done with us. No, it's not, and it's not done with the whole world quite yet. And still, we have managed to more than make the best of it. We have learned, grown, adapted, and it's not clear exactly what church will look like AC after COVID. Yet the practice of holy flexibility that we have taken up or has been forced upon us has revealed the resilience, power, and the necessity of community. And so what we will look like in 2023 or 25 and beyond, we don't know. But we know we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. And we know we will. A few highlights from this year. Our congregational administrator, Jennifer Luce, had her baby, Ruby Jean, and she took several weeks, 3+ months, I think, of parental leave, and we also were able to work it so that she could ease back into work, not have to jump in with both feet right away. And there were a whole crew of people who stepped in to cover the office duties each week. And David Henkel, here, wow, he stepped up in a very, very big way, taking the bookkeeping part of her job. And while he was up to at it, he updated some of our systems so that both Jen and our accountant can work from home. And another thing that we don't know what exactly it's going to look like is who's going to be working in church when and how do we do with all of that, but we've got lots of flexibility. And just a particular thank you and shout out to David Henkel right now, because whoa. And I am deliberately not saying all the names. There was a whole crew of people who covered the office, and we're very, very grateful to you as well. Also, this was our first full year with Fidelity Ballmer as our Director of Religious Education. If you'll recall, she started with us as an RE aide in the first summer of the pandemic. Then she worked not quite half-time as an RE coordinator during her senior year at college. And then she started at 35 hours a week as our Director of Religious Education on July 1st of 2021. And she has been wildly flexible in preserving programs for our children and youth and kids and families, and keeping, as all of their schedules kept morphing. So she's been on her toes. On a steep learning curve, she really is, and she makes it look like she's a natural, and she makes it look easy, though she's working very, very hard. And so I want to hold that up. Jimmy Vasquez began as our membership coordinator just 4 months before we shut down. And though that is an unusual way to join a new, though it is an unusual way to join a new church community while all of the services are online, we've actually had 13 people join us through COVID time. And more than half of those people were they came to us at first only online. So there's something that shined through about the gifts and the beauty of this congregation, even through all of that. Music director Carolyn Bjerke is now the longest serving member of the staff. She was hired by Reverend Jan Christian, and I'm not exactly certain of the year, and she has remained flexible and committed to bringing wonderful music to our church, both in person and online, and she started seminary online this year at United Theological School in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I will tell you, it has been an incredible delight to see her deepening in ministry and as a musician, including at one point in composing one of her own tunes for singing the words of the Reverend Theodore Parker. It's a delight to be part of the mentoring of her into ministry, finding that I have even more of a partner. It's been really, really great. Woohoo. And I'm also just going to say up front now that I am not going to thank everyone. I'm not going to be able to say thank you in the report and to all the people who have sustained us these last 2 years, because it's a very long list. And if I tried to write personal thank you notes, my hand would cramp up and fall off. So I have been baking cookies. I have been baking cookies. Right? And it's my way of thanking people. And there really is a long list. And many of you have already gotten your cookies, and I've got some more today, and then more coming. And you know, if at some point in July you think to yourself, well, hey, wait a minute, I did a lot, and I never got any cookies. Please let me know, because I'll bake some more. I don't know that I'm going to get everybody on the list before I leave. I'm going to leave for General Assembly on Monday, a week from tomorrow. So I'm doing my best, and I thank you, because oh my gosh, has it been an incredible labor of volunteers and spirit and love and caring and frustration and determination and keeping at it. So here are some highlights, though, from the year. We have reorganized the Finance Committee, and we have a full contingent of a treasurer and a Finance Committee chair, which is now letting David Smith step down after 10 plus years steadily at the helm. How many years was it, David? He forgets exactly how many, but so finally, and that's been really delightful. Our finances remain amazing by one measure and still kind of unnerving by another. And I've explained this multiple times, you may get it, but there are people who still come to me and say, you know, how can this be so good? So here's the amazing part. No, well, the unnerving part is that we still have significant year-to-year deficits. And we're working on that. I'm very grateful to the generosity team led by Brian Buck and many other people for 2 years. And I appreciate very much your innovations and vision in figuring out how we can get our, use all our resources that we have to grow in generosity in so many ways. We brought in UUA consultant Kay Kreider. So we do still have significant deficits, yet we have so much money in the bank. We have more than $500,000 in reserve funds. And so, and I've been at churches, so we have a deficit problem, but not a cash flow problem. I've said this before, I've been at churches that have both cash flow problem and a deficit problem, and that is harrowing. There are times that if you don't have the cash in the bank, you don't know when you're going to pay the bills. And so we're using what we have because we have that from the generosity in the past to keep us going. And this is a several-year process, and the budget that you will see reflects that, but it's been really good work. Also want to hold up the amazing worship team that we have developed with the worship associates and the tech team. We are actually, so far as I can tell, one of the most effective hybrid platform worship services that I have seen, particularly for a congregation of our size. So there are so many people to thank on there. You're getting cookies, but I do want to give a special shout out. Kitty Merrill has already gotten her cookies. I think Chef Dan got his cookies. Brian Fortune hasn't yet, but he's going to get them too. And looking ahead, we're moving into a new reality, and we have had our own version of the Great Resignation. This is happening all over churches everywhere, but people are reevaluating how they spend their time and less than thrilled overall about long-term commitments and serving on a committee that meets every month. And I tell that some churches are actually abolishing their whole committee structure. They're just throwing out committees, and they're doing it on a short-term basis. I have no idea how that works. I'm not necessarily suggesting it here, but I'm just saying, hey, we get to do this differently now. So I will say again and again that we create our community out of nothing, just our goodwill and our energy and our donations, and that will not stop happening. But here's some short-term, occasional basis volunteer jobs that you might want to consider. Join the tech team. They're really having fun. It's a whole TV studio back there. We have a number of people and could use 2, 3, 5 more. And it really is a lot of fun. And it's easy to learn. We're coming back together in person. We need greeters. We need greeters at the door. Maybe we want to put some greeters on, particularly now that it's hybrid, maybe some Zoom greeters would be really great. You can help with coffee hour. Again, we've got some people doing that, but one Sunday a month, you could be part of that team. Also, you could be a non-parent who teaches RE. I talk about this one a lot. Parents love to teach RE, some of them do, and some of them really want a break. So I encourage non-parents to also help with RE always. Shared ministry, I said this in the service. 2 things for us to do: take up a spiritual practice of some kind, and join a small group. And we're figuring out what those small groups look like. We'll probably still have some on Zoom. We'll have some in person and some hybrid. We're offering at least one Wellspring group, which is incredibly powerful. We've done 2 of them. We're doing at least 1 more, and 2 to 3 to 5 covenant groups. Maybe a writers group. There's men's and women's groups still, and we're trying to create more of those. It's a really great way to make connections and deepen our spiritual lives together. UU the Vote, happening again. David Smith is leading that one. And we're going to continue with our consciousness raising and anti-oppression efforts. And so these are all ways to share the ministry among us all. Looking just a little further out, just wanting to let you know, I will be taking a sabbatical in 2023 from mid to late March through July. And the board has approved those dates, and the board is already in preliminary conversations with a wonderful sabbatical minister. You will not see this expense on the budget because it's paid from a fund that has been accumulating off budget for years. So we already put that into previous year's budgets, and we'll be paying that separately. Also, the board has approved in concept us having an intern minister who would start in the fall of 2023, which is the next budget. And before the last pandemic, the board directed me to convene an interim ministry search committee who have started this past spring, and you'll be hearing more and more about that through the fall and winter. This is an amazing congregation. I say it over and over. And I also think we could be a great teaching congregation. And I forget which colleague I was talking to about this, that we could be a really good teaching congregation. And the colleague, somebody who has some responsibility for this, is, I would recommend Ventura would be at the top of my list as a teaching congregation. So those are things coming up. We're not done with the pandemic. We're still in it to some extent, and it's still going to be affecting our lives for a while yet to come. And woohoo, wow. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Reverend Dana, for a very thorough report, and it makes my report easier to give. But I do want to make a few comments. We obviously have survived another challenging year. COVID hit full force in March of 2020, and my entire tenure as your board president has been impacted by the pandemic. As someone told me, I have been your pandemic president. A year ago, we entered the church year with many unknowns, including how the pandemic would affect our members, our programming, our finances, and our sense of community. 2 years ago, the board created an annual vision of ministry during its retreat. And I want to just briefly read this vision. UUCV Board of Trustees will guide the congregation through the current COVID-19 situation to come out on the other side healthy, engaged, and vital. We will be flexible and open to what a healthy, engaged, and vital church will look like in a new post-coronavirus reality. So that was written 2 years ago. Little did we know that the pandemic would continue far beyond 2020. We've experienced wave after wave of COVID variants, and it's still not completely over. I think most of us thought the pandemic would last a few months and we would be back to normal. Although we are not fully through the tunnel of COVID misery, we have survived the worst of COVID, and I think we have a lot of reasons for optimism. We have learned to adapt to changing conditions and been able to maintain our sense of community. We are not back to a pre-pandemic normal, but we also realize there may be a new normal that we are still defining. So I think we'll look back a few years from now and realize that these were historic times that we're living through. With crisis comes both danger and opportunity. As a church, we have shown great resilience, and we have the opportunity to make UUCV a stronger and more vital place as we've learned to cope with the ups and downs of the pandemic. I want to share my thanks as well. And as Reverend Dana said, there are so many people to thank. I've certainly learned that church governance and ministry are team efforts. We have a wonderful, capable staff, and we've heard about their activities, and we have many wonderful volunteers. And again, I'm not going to try to name all our volunteers, but I do want to recognize a few people. I'm going to start with Brian Buck, our previous board president. Brian has continued to be a wonderful resource to me, a great sounding board, and providing good advice and encouragement. So thank you, Brian. I want to thank our board members and identify them. Xenia Young, who's sitting in the front row here, has been our vice president. Xenia stepped up to be our vice president when Peggy Anders, who was actually elected vice president a year ago, moved away shortly. And so I thank Xenia for all your help. Cassie Tondro, also in the front row, has been our secretary. Ron Dallas has been our treasurer, and I think Ron is at home. So thank you, Ron. And we have Ray Escobedo and Rebecca Fassett, who have been trustees at large. So I thank both of them. I especially want to recognize Ron Dallas, who will be leaving the board. Ron stepped up to fill a vacancy in the treasurer's role in January of 2021. He's done an outstanding job in this role and has also been a member of the Finance Committee. Ron has also been part of this year's budget team. So we're fortunate that Ron will continue to be part of the Finance Committee for the coming church year. And Ron, I know you're not here, but I just want to virtually present you with a card and a small token of our appreciation that I will pass on to you later. And speaking of the Finance Committee, I want to acknowledge and thank David Smith for his leadership as chair of the Finance Committee. And actually, I think it is 9 years. I looked at some of the records. So 9 years of service in that role. We actually thought David would be stepping down last year, but it's been difficult to find a new chair until recently. Of course, we'll never be able to replace David as a person who's helped shape the budget for many years and really has been the heart and soul of the Finance Committee. So, I'm happy to announce that Hill Osborne has agreed to assume the role of Finance Committee Chair starting the new church year. And is Hill here? I don't think he's here, but thank you for taking that on, Hill. Hill has an excellent background in finances, has been an active member of our church community for years in various roles, and I think will be a terrific leader for the Finance Committee. And most of all, I want to thank Reverend Dana. And Dana, I know you don't like to be called on last, but we're saving the best for last. And because I'm leaving my role as board president, I want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to work with you. I got really dry mouth. I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with you for the last 2 years. It's been a privilege and pleasure to work closely with you. Reverend Dana is really the center of our church community, and she's so positive, optimistic, enthusiastic, and envisions what is possible. I think she provides a big picture view of the church and its capacity to transform lives. So I've come to appreciate all the work that she does, a lot of which goes on behind the scenes and that we don't really know about. And also I want to thank you for your support, Reverend Dana. And so that's basically my report, and Gary Sinek, who chairs the Leadership Development Committee, asked me to give him a little time to say some words.
So, I'm Gary Zinnick, and on behalf of the Leadership Development Committee, I want to recognize and honor 2 board members and 1 member of the Leadership Development Committee who are ending their terms today and leaving those positions. The first is Madeline O'Connell, and Madeline has served 2 two-year terms on the Leadership Development Committee starting in 2018. Madeline was a very important member of our committee who always gave good guidance and advice. You will be missed, Madeline. And in addition to the Leadership Development Committee, Madeline has also served as a pastoral associate on the coffee team and coordinator of the caring team. So thank you for all the good work you do for our church, Madeline. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madeline. Ron Dallas became a trustee on the board in 2017. And in 2021, I think you've already heard that the current board treasurer left and moved out of state, and Ron stepped up to fill that position. And he served as treasurer for the past 1.5 years. You've already heard the treasurer serves as a liaison between the board and the finance committee to oversee the financial management of the church. And in addition to board treasurer, Ron also helps coordinate the Friday night movie night as well as other church projects. So Ron, I know you're out in Zoom land, I hope, watching, and what I have for you, Ron, is an engraved mug with a symbol of our chalice and your name and your years of service on the board. So I'll make sure you get this, Ron. So finally, Yukio Okano will be retiring from the board, as you know, and Yukio became a trustee in 2018, and for the past 2 years has served as president of the board. When Yukio agreed to be president, he had no idea that COVID was just around the corner and the huge impact it would have on our church. But he rose to the challenge and he steered our ship safely through the COVID storm, although of course we know it's not quite over as we've been hearing. In addition to the board, Yukio has also served on the safety and security team, the caring team, and the coffee team, and as a pastoral associate. And I talked to a few other members of the board and asked them to give me their thoughts about Yukio, and they all said that he just always went above and beyond the call of duty and beyond his assigned responsibilities to the church. And that included everything from conducting board meetings with a soft-spoken, clear-eyed leadership to sweeping up pine needles in the parking lot before church events. So Yukio, I want to present you with an engraved beer mug, and as a token of our appreciation for all the good work you do for the church. Thank you, Yukio. Okay? Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. We actually have 2 more business items to go through, and I'm mindful of the time. I do appreciate your staying over from the service, but we have 2 important issues to vote on. The first one we're going to look at is the budget for 2022-2023, and Sandy Atkins, our budget team leader, will present the proposed budget. Many of you probably saw Sandy's presentation of the budget last month during our congregational conversation. She did an outstanding job reviewing the budget. And since that meeting, the board has met and has endorsed the budget for your approval. So Sandy will review the budget briefly, and you can ask questions or make comments. If you're here in the sanctuary, please raise your hand. And we do have a microphone that you can use. If you're at home, please write your question or comment in the chat box in Zoom, or you can use the raise your hand option. Xenia is keeping track of the virtual page, and so you will be recognized and you can make your comment after unmuting yourself. All right, so Sandy.
I think I'm supposed to, speaking of COVID not being over, my husband has it right now. So I'm trying to keep my mask on. Can you understand me okay? Okay. Thanks. So someplace here, I think, I will find, I'm used to touch screens. Poking everything. I have one of those automatic faucets, and I'm always hitting faucets too. Open. The documents? Oh, you have it in PDF? Well, that's the extended budget, proposed budget summary. There we go. Okay. And how do I make this bigger? How about Control Plus? What do you think? That did it. Woohoo! Okay. So did anybody get a chance to read this? Okay, this is not a majority, so. Yeah, okay. Got it. Okay, I got it. There we go. Oh, just the numbers, okay. So we could cut to the chase, as they say, in the interest of time and lunch. So the columns on this are the prior budget, not this year's actual numbers. The second column is the proposed budget, the 2022-2023 fiscal year, or the FYE 23 fiscal year end 23 budget. And then the third column shows the dollars of change between the two, not the percentage of change. So 87% of all of our income comes from pledges. And we're proposing essentially a 7% increase in pledges, as basically we're not proposing it, that's what people have promised to give the church. So that amounts to almost a $19,000 increase in our pledged income this year. The other income, we budgeted a little bit more this year than we budgeted last year because we had a lot more. And so we're going a little bit more on the experience of this year than on the prior budget, which was pre-COVID. So the change there is 12,800. And the prior year budget had cut out some events and things like that that we're trying to put back in. So the total revenue income is budgeted at 427,900. The staff is 73% of all our expenses, and we budgeted that at an average increase in salary wages of 3%. That reflects in a lot of benefits, it reflects in the pension, it reflects in taxes, it reflects in almost everything else. Plus, we had 2 people now qualifying for the pension, Jimmy and Fidelity. I'm so glad I didn't call her Felicity this time. those three syllable F names. So that amounts to most of it, the 3% increase and the increased number of people on the pension plan. Building and administration, last year's experience was very, very low because we weren't occupying the building. So this year we are occupying the building, and so we kind of budgeted halfway between because we're hybrid. So a lot of the meetings still aren't happening in the building. And so we went kind of, oopsie, sorry, meet it halfway. Can you tell I was a mom? Oopsie. And so that's a total of an 8,800 increase. We budgeted for some expected increase in utilities because of inflation, and increases in things like copier leases and stuff like that, that we know inflation is happening. And as I said in the other one, we kind of went with the total inflation for the prior 12 months, which was 8.5% when we did the budget. Program-related expense is, it's actually a lower budget because people aren't spending money on a lot of program type of things. So we just kept that at what people asked for their programs rather than what we had been budgeting in the past. Therefore, we have a total expenditures of $500,000 against a 427 income, which gave us a deficit, planned operating deficit. This is where the difference between our actual deficit and why we're doing, why quote unquote cash is better than the operations. So the normal expenditures of the church, being staff, building, insurance, office supplies, that kind of thing, exceed our mostly pledged revenue by about $74,000. But, and this, have you guys ever seen the cartoon that shows a guy, a professor writing on the blackboard, all these equations, but right in the middle it says, and then a miracle occurred. That seems to, that's as non-divine, outside divinity as we go, somehow we always seem to get a miracle so that things work out in the end. I know Cappy's applying for a grant right now, so stuff happens during the year. So that plan of 73,815 deficit is against the withdrawal from our legacy funds. Our legacy funds are non-restricted. So in the parlance of nonprofit accounting, there's restricted funds, which means the donor said, you got to spend it on this. Then there's board designated funds. So the legacy fund is a board designated fund that's supposed to fund growth and innovation in the church. And so what we're hoping is that programmatically, we're going to invest in expansion, the of programs, expansion of the church, more members. So it's an optimistic budget, figuring that over time, we're going to come up with more members, more programs, a more attractive church that's more engaging, retaining people as well as attracting people. So we're taking that $50,000, and that leaves us with a planned deficit of $23,815. Now, if you look at the prior year, we actually budgeted an operating deficit of $89,000. So we're doing better this year than last year's budget, which you approved. Just saying. We don't have all those grants. So last year we had $78,000 worth of grants related to COVID and keeping operating. So we're funding our own growth out of that $500,000 of savings. Now, most businesses, or at least nonprofits, I come from a nonprofit world, don't have 12 months of operations in their savings account. You're lucky if you've got like 3 to 6 usually in a nonprofit world. So we're better than most. I would say probably better than 90% of churches for sure. So that leaves us with a minus 23,000, which is a little bit worse than the projected, given the fact that we had those grants last year. So our operations are slimmer this year. We're doing better. We're planning for a better balance between income and expense this year. But our net expected net of miracles, which seem to happen all the time, which is why cash flow has not been an issue, of $23,815. And now I welcome your questions. There's a microphone for the Zoom people. Everybody needs to talk into the microphone if they're able to get there. Otherwise, somebody could send the mic around.
So do we anticipate any grants this year? You didn't put anything in there, but do we anticipate any?
We have no expectation of a grant. We have hopes of some funding coming in, but no.
It's just
We're not counting on any grants, and there's no opportunities that we have found for which we are qualified.
Okay, and then another question. So our other source to pay for the deficit would be the legacy fund, and do you know how much interest and dividends and capital gains the legacy fund had last year? This year probably won't have much, but last year was pretty good.
Our treasurer would be more likely to know that. I was the budget chair.
Yeah.
If Ron is, could somebody look at chat and see if Ron is going to chat us in?
Won't have much, but. I mean, because
He may be having lunch.
No, I'm here.
We're here.
Can they?
I'm sorry, I can't
It's
answer
not that
that.
important. I could ask them.
Yeah, we had a really great year as far as dividends, but as we all
He
know,
may
he may be having
yeah,
lunch.
but
The
this-
writing.
No, I'm here.
We're here.
Can they?
I'm sorry, I can't
It's
answer
not that
that.
important. I could ask them.
Yeah, we had a really great year as far as dividends, but as we all know, he may be having lunch. The writing.
No, I'm here.
We're here. The hell?
Can they?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. Yeah, we had a really great year as far as dividends, but as we all know, he may be having lunch. The writing.
No, I'm here.
It's Groundhog
We're
Day.
here. The hell?
Hello?
David,
Would you talk about what is needed to add some money to the sabbatical and to
Oh, yes.
major maintenance if there is enough money?
yeah, so one of the ways that we reduced expenses in this budget that we're presenting is to, every year we have been historically setting aside $10,000 in a major maintenance replacement fund, which goes out of operations and then into the balance sheet as in the savings. So this year we said we've got enough to just spend it right out of the savings. So we're going to only budget $2,500 against major maintenance occurring this year. There's also maintenance in the budget for regular maintenance. So this is for stuff that wears out or something that is ordinary. And what we're proposing is that there be a resolution saying that if we have surplus funds as of June 30th, 2023, that miracle that seems to occur almost every year, the congregation authorizes putting up to $7,500 of that back into the major maintenance fund. And then we did not budget at all the sabbatical because, again, that the balance in that fund is adequate to cover the expected sabbatical in 2024, 3, whatever. So, but if we do well during the year, we're going to ask to put the 5,000 that you normally budget back into the fund for the sabbatical. So I'm going to propose that if you vote to accept the budget, you also vote to accept that resolution because they weren't made into two separate things. So the Finance Committee and the board have both approved these two things. So the proposal is that you accept the budget and that if at the end of the year we are doing better than we planned, we will put back the $7,500 into major maintenance and the $5,000 into the sabbatical fund. Other questions? I think everybody got the details, so if you want to refer to something and ask a question outside of the voting, you can go ahead and do that too.
If there are no other questions here, we may have a question.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, of course. Zoom
Yeah,
land.
this is Jennifer. Yeah, I was wondering, you mentioned the letters F like fire. I think it was F like fire. Y like was wondering. I don't know. I don't know what it stands for. The FYE. I don't know those letters. And I hear my voice on the mic. I don't know what it stands for. The FYE. I don't know those letters.
But we're going to take a second and we're going to do something that we do every week.
And I got a lot of other sounds on my end.
I couldn't figure.
Hello?
The fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th every year.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't even know what those letters stood for. I appreciate knowing because I was like, what is that? What does that FYE stand for? And no one explained it, so I appreciate knowing what the letters stand for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Going once? Going twice? Back to you. Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Sandy. I know that's a lot of information, but hopefully you've had a chance to look at the paper version of the budget or were here for the meeting a few weeks ago. All right, so we need a motion to accept the 2022-2023 budget as published in the annual meeting packet. I'm sorry, Carolyn? Okay, Carolyn Briggs. Do we have a second? Gudrun? How about Gudrun? Any other further discussion, questions before we go to a vote? And anything virtually, Celia? No? Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to take a vote, and if you're in the sanctuary, please raise your hand, so we'll take a count. If you're at home, the item should come up on your screen and check yes or no. And remember, 2 people can vote per screen. If you're the only one, check NA for the second vote, and then after voting, submit your response. And we do have an absentee count. So go ahead and, if you're here, raise your hand and Cassie will take a count.
I have one question. Can we do a voice
Yeah,
vote?
for yes, or to approve, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I can't do it. I can't do it via what do you call I can't, I can do the hand raising, but I don't know what the hand raising is. Does that indicate that the person accepts is saying yes? Is that what the hand raising indicates, or does it just indicate that someone's trying to speak?
Okay, are there any no votes? So we're waiting for the virtual count. All right, does anybody wish to abstain? No. Okay, so the budget is passed with 87 yes votes and 2 no votes. And we have one more item to vote on, our slate of nominees. So let me quickly review the nominees for 2022, 2023. We have 4 nominees for the board, and they include Jim Merrill, who has been nominated to be the next president of the board. Xenia Young, nominated to be vice president. The vice president's role is a 1-year term. The president's role is a 2-year term. Sandy Atkins has been nominated to be the treasurer for a 2-year term. And Gudrun Easton is a nominee for a 2-year term as a trustee. So those are the nominees. The other names on the slate are continuing in their particular role, meaning that they were elected either last year or the year before and have longer terms, so they don't need to be voted on this year. Okay, is there any discussion, any questions about the slate? Carolyn. Okay, are there any virtual questions? Okay, all right, so Carolyn Briggs has moved to accept the slate as published. Is there a second? I think I saw Brian's hand. Brian Buck? All right, any further discussion? All right, if not, then again, let's go through the voting process. If you're here in the sanctuary, raise your hands and Cassie will take a vote. If you're at home, please vote according to how you've been virtually. And we'll, this is for yes, to approve the slate, I'm sorry. In favor of the motion. Okay, and you can put your hand down. Anyone opposed to approving the slate or the motion? Any abstentions? So if you can hold on a moment, we'll get a count. All right, the slate of nominees has been approved with a vote of 77 yes and 0 no. All right, and our final item of business, I'm going to ask those of you who are present who were elected to step forward, Kim Merrill, Xenia, Sandy, and Gudrun. And Reverend Dana will say a few words of installation.
Okay, yep, here. Yeah, okay. So I have adapted a board investiture ritual from a friend and colleague, Odette Fulson. And everybody has a piece of this. In a free religious community, to serve is the highest expression of our commitment and love. To be asked to lead is the highest honor. This morning, this afternoon, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura have chosen you to lead in the coming year. The people you have chosen to lead stand before you. The relationship between congregation and board is one of deep respect and mutual regard. And so, to the congregation on Zoom and in person, you have asked them to take on the holy work of discernment and guidance. They need you to support them. To support them in their work, share ideas and concerns in love, and to offer them trust as they fulfill their offices faithfully. The work of the church is the work of the people. It is the work of building the world of which we dream. It may require time spent poring over budget sheets. Hours spent in meetings where details are hashed out. It may manifest in shared laughter and sometimes outright frustration, but always it is sacred, for it is a pursuit of beloved community. And so, to do all of this work, they will need your support, your trust and support. So now I ask the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura, do a thumbs up if you're on Zoom, and I ask, or respond out loud, but I ask you, will you offer love and trust to your board, responding when they seek your input, showing up when they tell you that work needs to be shared, and listening carefully when they speak of life in the church? If so, please respond, we will.
We will.
To you, dear people rising forth into leadership, will you be diligent and faithful in your work, bringing your best selves and practicing self-care and open-heartedness, tending with love the details of the work, and always keeping the goal of beloved community in front of you as you serve? If so, please respond, we will. And so here we are, congregation and board, once more. Thank you for all who came here on Zoom, in here, to all who gave us absentee ballots because they know the work of the church is important, even though they couldn't be here. And to all who have served ably, nobly, and well, and to those stepping forward into service, so much gratitude, so much gratitude.
So that concludes all our business, and we will extinguish the chalice. And if you have any final words? Okay. All right.
Go forth in love, go forth in peace. Blessed are the cheesemakers.
So we will adjourn our meeting, and thank you for being here.
Blessed all the bread makers.